What's up guys, Mario from Noted Tactical here, got another video for you. This video is going to be about enlisted versus officer. I'm going to tell you what it's like to be an enlisted airman versus what it's like to be an officer, pros, cons for each, and then my opinion on either or. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so to start, I'm going to generalize it a little bit and tell you what the enlisted force does and what the officer force does and their missions on both ends. So starting off with the enlisted members, such as myself, we're the ones that actually are out there doing the technical work and the actual front line of all the work that is done in the Air Force. Usually in the beginning stages. In the later stages of enlisted, it's also managerial and supervisory positions as well. But at least in the beginning and even in the middle part of the ranks, you're always going to be doing the front line of the work and taking care of business. Now, on contrary to that, the officer force, what they do is that they manage and supervise the enlisted force, and they are basically always our bosses. So for example, the highest person in your chain of command is always going to be an officer. That person's position is your commander. So the commander is in charge of the entire squadron, and they need to think about how their squadron is contributing to the mission and be more efficient, and they are managing it as a big picture type of perspective. So the enlisted is doing the small tasks that are getting the mission done, while the officers are getting that entire group of enlisted airmen or NCOs or whatever and making sure that the mission is being met through their small tasks. So that's just how the rank structure and the hierarchy works in all the military. That's how the relationship is between enlisted and officers. Alright, so now for the pros and cons of the enlisted and officer forces. So starting off with the enlisted, the pros is that you get to actually do the work. So in the end, you get to become that technical expert in your specific area. And you definitely, I feel like you have more fun as an enlisted member because you have more camaraderie and you're always surrounded by your enlisted brothers. In a regular squadron, that's how it would work. So you get to build a stronger bond, and then you can, even after work, you can go out and be friends after work, because officers and enlisted can't really hang out as friends, especially if you're in the same chain of command, especially. And I feel like enlisted, you get to not relax a little bit more, but you're not under constant scrutiny of, and you're held, and officers are held to a way higher standard. So enlisted force, you just get to go to work and do your thing, and you don't have to be a superior, amazing leader at all times. You could just be a regular dude, just making sure you do your work all the time, on time, and correctly. Another benefit of being an enlisted member is that you get to actually take care of your enlisted members below you. So with more rank comes more responsibility. Let's say you're a staff sergeant, you get to take care of directly of your airmen below you, and that's cool because then you can be their direct supervisor and their leader. So that is actually a really cool benefit because you get to interact more with the actual airmen, the younger guys. All right, so now for the cons of the enlisted force. So not really a con, but what I would say is that you only can cap out at chief, and it's kind of a con that a second lieutenant outranks a chief, and that's just how it works, and that's how it always works, and that's how it's going to work. But not really a con, because you can be a chief enlisted manager, you can be a command chief, and you can even be the chief master sergeant of the Air Force. So your rank caps out, but your position can grow from there. At the same rank, you can have a higher position, which is awesome. And now for the pros of the officer force. So number one pro is that you get to manage and supervise a lot of people and a lot of programs. So you directly become a supervisor and you are put into a leadership position right off the bat. Another pro is that you don't have to worry about school because you already have a bachelor's degree, at least, in order to become an officer. So you don't really have to worry about school unless, of course, you're trying to get a master's degree for later on. That will help you with promotions because it looks better to have a master's than just a bachelor's. So just saying. Another pro is that you definitely get paid significantly more than an enlisted member. So just think about this for a second. A captain, let's say you're a captain, you've been in 6 years. In the Air Force, you've been in 6 years. You'll probably be getting paid equal to or more than a chief master sergeant that's been in for 20 years. So imagine, you've been in the Air Force 6 years and somebody's been in the Air Force 20 years and you're making more money than them. That's a huge pro. So that's just amazing. Another pro is that I feel like the cap is very, very high for officers because the cap is basically chief chief of staff of the Air Force, and you're at that position, you're talking to the president. You're literally at the top of what you can possibly do for the Air Force. So not many people make it there, but that's a very, very high cap. It's almost like you have no ceilings because you can just keep going. And now for the cons of being an officer. So it's harder to become an officer than an enlisted member just because, you have to have a bachelor's degree, and it's very, very competitive. So I would say that's kind of a con. It's very hard to get in, but that can be looked upon as a pro because once you're in that special officer club where, you're kind of elite because you made it there, which is awesome. I really respect that. Another con of being an officer, I would say, is that it could possibly be more stressful. With more rank comes more responsibility. You already outrank all the enlisted members, so you need to manage and supervise them and the programs that they are running. So I feel like that could get a little bit more stressful than a person that's just focused on a specific task. Another con I would say is that you're kind of always under constant scrutiny. So you're always being looked at to make sure you're sharp and 100% all the time, and you're held to a way higher standard. Now this necessarily isn't a con because you always want to be in your highest standard and you always want to be at 100%. But some people have bad days, and I guess it's just, it matters more for officers. They just need to be a little bit more controlled in what they do. All right, so now for my opinion on enlisted versus officers. I'm an enlisted member right now, and my direct supervisor is a officer. So seeing what I do and seeing what they do, I would rather be doing what they do because I feel like I'm just cut out to be in a managerial and supervisory position. Of course, with more experience and more years under my belt, I'll get there. But I honestly feel like I'm just cut out to be an officer. If I were to stay in the military and do 20 years, I would prefer being in an officer role. So that's why I'm working hard. I'm trying to get my degree. I'm going to school, and I'm going to be putting in for officer OTS. So I'm going to be trying to do that. I just feel like it resonates more with me and how I am as a person. My methodical, organized mentality and perspective and big picture oriented and just getting the mission accomplished. That is kind of what I want to be doing in the Air Force if I were to stay in. So that's just my opinion. The enlisted force is amazing, and I've had an amazing time being enlisted. But I'm always progressing and I'm always trying to get better. And the next step for me to get better is to become an officer in the Air Force, and I think that that's very respectable, and that's what I would like to do. So thank you for watching this video. I hope I was able to clear up some of the distinctions between officers and enlisted. So see you next time. Done.